Just bear with me if you can hear me. Not sure if this is going right now. It's not giving me any info. Okay, let's try it this way. Like I said, just bear with me. And it's saying that it's on. Call Tuab. Okay, Tuwada. Yeah, I was just trying to. For some reason, it's not popping up here on this TV, so I was just trying to get it to go. Yeah, it's not popping up. All right, no worries. All right, so I'd like to start off by saying Barakatah Yahweh, Bahashem Yahushai, Bahashem, Ruchakudash. Welcome to another live lesson. The name of this one it's called Jacob's Trouble for a reason. And pretty much this is centered around this whole situation going on right now with all of these deportations that pretty much started with the so-called Latin tribes. They didn't focus on the East Indians, the Arabs, the Chinese, the Africans, and other nations that are coming into this land. They focused on the so-called Latin tribes. And there's a reason for that. See, these devils know who the real threat is. And I'm not saying real threat as far as crime is concerned. I'm talking about real threat as far as prophecy is concerned. Because these devils know that once the tribes get back together, it's, there's going to be hell to pay, and they understand in prophecy because they have the prophets that's been breaking this down for decades, and they know that once these two tribes come together, the tribe of Judah and the tribe of Ephraim, it's lights out. And they understand the difference between the southern kingdom and the northern kingdom. I'm not talking about your average peon, not even them so-called scholars. They're peons too. I'm not talking about them. I'm talking about the so-called elite, the ones that run and control and rule this world and run the governments and run the monetary systems of the world. That's what we talk about. They know what the hell is going on. They know the difference between the southern kingdom and the northern kingdom. They know who all the tribes are. They know that this sign is correct. They know that the names of the Heavenly Father and His Son is Yahweh and Yahushai. This is why they're fighting, tooth and nail, trying to stop this truth. But you can't stop prophecy. See, that's the thing. You could stop, men. You could stop, ideas. You could stop philosophies. You could stop religion. You can infiltrate them, and do whatever you do best. Throw money at it. But you can't stop the prophecies of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai because they are already set in motion and it's already happening. No matter what you do, it's and the cat's out the bag, dude. Okay. It's already in motion. So you can't stop this, locomotion train that has been let loose and it already left the station. You done missed the bus. Inside joke. Zechariah 9:12. Turn you to the stronghold, you prisoners of hope. And this is the stronghold, this truth. This is what's going to protect us in the times to come. And we are the prisoners of hope because we are saved by hope. And that's all we have is hope. All we have is hope and faith that the Lord will do what He said He would do. In these times of great uncertainty, these times of great trouble and tribulation, the time of Jacob's trouble, we have the faith and the confidence in Yahweh Bashem Yahushai that He's going to step in to help us, because other than that, we doomed. We finished, just like the rest of the world. Yahushai said, if He doesn't shorten the days, there shall no flesh be saved. But for the elect's sake, He will shorten the days. Right? It says, even today do I declare that I will render double unto thee. So Esau is about to get paid double for everything that they've done to us. I'm going to read this and then I'm going to go make some other points. When I have bent Judah for me, what is the bending? That is the bow. Judah is the bow. Because the bow is the main part of the weapon. All right. It says, and filled the bowl with Ephraim. The bowl will represent, the um, thing that's ejected, for lack of better words, from that weapon. Like you have a bow, you have arrows, you have a gun, you have bullets. So Jake would be the gun and Ephraim would be the bullets. You see? And they understand that when these two tribes come back together, which represents the whole nation, because Judah represents Judah, Benjamin, and Levi. That is a representation of the southern kingdom. The northern kingdom is represented by Ephraim and the rest of the other tribes. At one time, there were 10. We don't know exactly what happened to Dan, but if you go to IUIC, they'll tell you that there's certain, Carib Indians, so on and so forth, in the Caribbeans or whatever the case may be. But really, there's only 12 tribes. All right. But the tribe of Dan, we'll find out in the kingdom what happened. They're still around somehow, somewhere, but they're mixed in among the other tribes because the Lord said it would be 12 tribes. And if Dan was to be a tribe, it would have to be 13 tribes because in the kingdom of heaven, Levi is going to be a tribe. That's why in the book of Revelation, the 7th chapter, it mentions Levi. Because all of the men of the nation of Israel are going to be priests. It's not going to be the Levitical priesthood anymore. That was changed when Yahushua came on the scene. Okay? It says, and raised up thy sons, O Zion. Zion is monument to Zion, which are the Israelites, against thy sons, O Greece. Right? So the Greeks would be Edomites, the so-called white man. Now, when you go back into this word Greece, here it goes to the Hebrew word Yawan, or in the English Javan, which goes back to the sons of Japhet. But these are not the sons of Japhet, because the sons of Japhet didn't. We went into captivity under them, but the sons of Japhet didn't, take the Israelites from one part of the world to the other part of the world, meaning from the so-called west coast of Africa all the way over here to the so-called Americas, and made thee as a sword of a mighty man. So the Lord is going to make us as a sword of a mighty man, and then that's pretty much it. That's the main point. So when these two tribes come together, it's going to be hell to pay. Now, the reason why Spirit had me entitle this lesson, it's called The Time of Jacob's Trouble, for a reason, because it's not just the so-called Latin tribes or the Northern Kingdom, the so-called Latino and Native American Indian or the Indian tribes. It's also Judah, Benjamin, and Levi. And now we're seeing the persecution, that's on the so-called Latin tribes being passed on to so-called Jamaicans, so-called Haitians, you see, and eventually so-called Black Americans. Because the thing is that it's called Jacob's trouble. It's not called Ephraim's trouble or Issachar's trouble or Judah's trouble or Levi's trouble. No, it's called Jacob's trouble, meaning all of the tribes together. All right. As we speak right now, right, you have the so-called Haitians, which are the tribe of Levi. Their status, their visa, for lack of better words, is being terminated as of this September. It says the U.S. Department of Homeland Security is terminating the temporary protective status (TPS) for Haiti, meaning Haitian nationals with TPS will lose their legal status and work permits in early September. This affects hundreds of thousands of Haitians in the U.S. who will be expected to leave or face potential deportation. And as we speak, brothers just sent me the news that Congress or Senate, U.S. Senate Republicans narrowly passed Trump's big, beautiful bill, 51-50. The deciding factor was Vice President J.D. Vance. That's what made it 51-50. Now it's got to go through a few other little loopholes, but pretty much this bill is passed. The big, beautiful bill. And you're gonna see, how you think shit is bad now. Wait till this devil, because this devil's in rare form. You know, Trump is in rare form. He's turning up. You know, he don't give a damn. He's turning up. But now you're going to really see the horns coming out. You know, you're going to really see these horns come out. As the scriptures say in, let's go there real quick. I had this for later, but Spirit is on me now to get it. So Revelation chapter 12, and we're just going to go straight to the point. And 12, it says, therefore rejoice ye heavens, and ye that dwell in them. Woe to the inhabitants of the earth and of the sea, for the devil has come down unto you, having great wrath, because he knoweth that he had but a short time. So what you have to understand is that these small hats, the Amalekites, the JOOSs, they've infiltrated every facet of society, and they've implemented, you know, pretty much they got in place everything that protects them and is harmful to everybody else, you know. So, you know, we're witnessing, you know, this time where you're going to have this draconian legislation that's going to really affect all of the tribes. It's going to affect the world in general, but it's going to affect all of the tribes, you know, here in America. And there's a reason why all of the tribes are here. You know, there was another instance where there was a Jake, right, that's being deported to Jamaica. You know, and he's never been to Jamaica. He doesn't know about Jamaica because he was born to a U.S. vet in Germany back in 1986. And now they're deporting him back. So he doesn't have any status. So they're deporting him because they're saying he's not a U.S. citizen. So how many more people of the other tribes you think that's going to apply to? And then, you know, you have the ICE agents running crazy, you know. So things are going to get really, really bad, you know, because they're not going to make a distinction of, well, you know, you're Haitian and you're Dominican and you're Jamaican or whatever the case may be. All of you are going down. They're going to take everybody. They're kicking everybody out. As Elder Yashwama sent me. Oh, matter of fact, let me read this. Not read it, Salakia. Just bear with me 1 second. I got like 100,000,000 things going through my brain right now. I'm just trying to pull up this video that is, you know, we're currently on, because I want to try to keep an eye on the comments, you know, but this thing has been acting up. And I want to pull up this video that the Elder Yashawamba sent me. And my response to him is that, damn, they're kicking everybody out. You know, hey, Jake be thinking, you know, that shit ain't going to affect them. You know, that's down the street, or that's them cats over there. But eventually they're going to come for you too. Just bear with me 1 second. I'm almost there. Come on, man. Okay, let's go. Come on. All right, here we go. Damn, man, you got to do all this bullshit. All right. Let me see. I don't know if I'll be able to. Okay, yeah, good. All right, cool, beautiful. All right, so let's get to it. All right, so we read that the Haitians. We read here the U.S. Senate Republicans narrowly passed Trump's big beautiful bill, BBB 666, and you have the big beautiful bill in simple terms, right? The big beautiful bill, officially the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, OBBBA, is a large piece of Republican-backed legislation focused on tax cuts, border security, and immigration enforcement. These are the main ones here. Yeah, all that other stuff, yeah, that's the stuff they threw in there, you know, for certain provisions that they want. But this is the main one, border security and immigration enforcement. All right. So with this, pretty much, you know, Trump, you know, is going to be able to move. He's been doing it anyway, but he's going to be able to move ahead unencumbered. You can look that word up. You know, there was some woman that was saying that now, the courts can't, stop Trump from doing whatever he's doing. I don't remember the exact wording, but pretty much he's going to be a madman. All right. It says it also includes significant changes. Matter of fact, let's come down here. Border security and immigration. It includes funding for a border wall and increased funding for immigration and customs enforcement, ICE, to support deportation. So ICE is already on a rampage. So this is going to give them more ammo, and they're just going to grab whoever the fuck they want to grab. It don't matter if you have U.S. citizenship or not. If they say you're not a citizen, guess what? You're not a citizen, and that's that. So shit is going to get. The scriptures talk about the time of Jacob's trouble. The Most High is rousing you Jakes up. He's rousing you Judites up, because you are the spearhead of the Most High Yahweh Bashem Yahushai's prophecies. You are that spearhead, and you're going to set it off. This is why for years you've been, going back and forth, protests and getting your head beaten and all that. That's all preparation for what's coming, because you're going to be at the forefront of this whole movement, dealing with, when the Lord stirs you up to come against, these different officials, because the time of Jacob's trouble is also going to be the time of Esau's trouble, as Elder Pastor said before, but it's also going to be a time where all bets are off. The so-called average citizen in whatever country they are, especially here in America, are going to go buck wild. They're not going to, listen to the people that are in authority. They're not going to be listening to the police. They're not going to be listening to anybody, because it's going to be a time of serious desperation. This is 2 Ezra 15 and 14. Woe to the world and them that dwell therein. Why? Because this is going to be a worldwide event, right? For the sword and their destruction draweth nigh. Why? Because these are the signs that the Lord said would happen in these times prior to the Heavenly Father Yahweh sending Yahweh Shai back. So all of these things must manifest on the earth, and they are manifesting on the earth based off of the knowledge, wisdom, understanding of the scriptures in prophecy. It says, and one people shall stand up to fight against another, because you're going to have race wars, class wars. And matter of fact, I just finished watching a video last night, which I sent to a few brothers, of a video when we spoke out there in Union Square, New Jersey, back in 1997. And a lot of the things that the elder, there was 2 videos, but I only saw one on the site. I guess they took the other one down. But Elder Pastor is saying the same things that are happening right now at this time. When you watch that video, you'll see, if you type in part 1, I believe it's GMS in Union Square, Union something, New Jersey, 1997. You'll see it. The same thing that he's speaking about back then, which I don't perceive that he had any grays back then. Because it looked like he had a full head of hair, of black hair and black beard, and all the things that he was saying back then, which we've been speaking about for years, are actually happening right now on all levels. So he was saying back then, you're going to have, the higher ups of Esau fighting against the lower. You're going to have the lower of Jake fighting against the higher class of Jake, and you're going to have race wars. You're going to have civil war. All of these things, this system is about to implode within itself. It says, for there shall be sedition among men, right? Because you're going to have a sedition. You're going to have people that's going to be tired, because according to the Constitution, right, if the government becomes tyrannical, it says that the American people have the right to take up arms against them and remove that government, that tyrannical government. So you have people today, Edomites today, that stand by that, and they're not going to sit around and get, get their heads beat in, so to speak, like Jake does. They're gonna fight. So there's gonna be, some tension is getting worse and worse, and shit is about to explode. Because it's to the point where it can't be contained anymore. Pressure bust pipes, right? It says, and invading one another, yeah, because they're gonna cross boundaries, because it's gonna get very desperate. You could already see it's desperate. You go to certain stores right now that are supposed to be higher, little higher end markets, not super higher, but little higher end markets, and you'll see a lot of sections in the cold section on the shelves empty. I'm talking about big sections, like 20 feet, all empty. And shit is just, they barely got enough, of certain things. And you goddamn devils out there, stop eating my apples. Inside joke. Well, not really an inside joke. It's just, the particular kind of apples that I like that, everybody wants to get. You got a whole bunch of fucking array of GMO apples. Nobody want to get them, but they want to get the ones that I like. Salakia. It says, they shall not regard their kings nor princes. See? And that's what? Your rulers, the authorities, the police, And this is why, Trump is getting, and throughout time, Jake and Americans have been getting, acquainted more with military being involved and being in the streets. It's going to become a daily occurrence. Because this is what they're going to use, because you're not going to have enough police to police all of these people when they start going buck wild. So they're going to have to send the National Guard. They're going to have to send in the reserves. They're going to have to send certain military men in there to try to quell the situation. So it's going to get bad because, people are tired of the empty promises from the government. The government, every time somebody gets in, they speak the right things, and then when they get in, they do the total opposite of what they said. And by now, you would think, people talking about. I was watching a video that the Elder Karatazar sent me from the Vegas camp, where people passed the bill, and then in the comments section, I'm reading the comments, and people, cursing, the system out or whatever, and then one dickhead, well, I hope people in 2026 know what to do, in the midterms. And I'm like, this dickhead is talking about voting. What the fuck did that change? You got the nut job Biden and Kamala Harris out of there, right? You got Trump, the supposed save America, right? What did he do? He said all the right things to these devils out here, but he's doing the total opposite, And we applaud Trump, I agree with Apostle. If we could vote for Trump, we would vote, because you got the right man for the right job, and that devil, he just does whatever the hell he wants to do. He's a madman. They shall not regard their kings nor princes, and the course of their actions shall stand in their power. All right, so we're gonna go back here. So that's dealing with the deportation, right? So we have the big beautiful bill that was passed. Just got to go through a few little provisions, but they passed it 51-50, and J.D. Vance was a determining factor. So now let me play this video that the Elder Yashawama sent me. Fair use, fair use, fair use.
I'd like to say, a little controversial, but I couldn't care less. We have a lot of bad criminals that came into this country, and they came in stupidly. It was an unforced error. It was an incompetent president that allowed it to happen. It was an auto pen maybe that allowed it to happen, and it did happen. But we also have a lot of bad people that have been here for a long time. People that whack people over the head with a baseball bat from behind when they're not looking and kill them. People that knife you when you're walking down the street. They're not new to our country. They're old to our country. Many of them were born in our country. I think we ought to get them the hell out of here too. You want to know the truth. So maybe that'll be the next job that we'll work on together. But I think getting them out, we forget about them. We had some bad accidents in New York. They're not accidents.
See? So who you think he talking about? Your Pookies and your Ray Rays and your Shirleys and Keishas and all that. It's all a big setup, man. And a lot of people don't realize that. So I want to start off here in the book of Isaiah 41 because I was reading this earlier and it kind of, the first verse that I read, it just gave me pretty much an idea for this lesson. Isaiah 41:1. Keep silence before me, O islands, and let the people renew their strength. See, this is talking about Israelites. Renew their strength. Let them come near, then let them speak. Let us come near together to judgment. Why? Because we've been beaten down. So now we have to be able to be lifted up. Matter of fact, what the hell is, I hate that. Okay, let's see. All right, there we go. All right, renew their strength. Then there was a precept that came to mind. I hate that. Precept that just came to mind when I read this. Keep silence before me. That we have to be lifted up. So let's go real quick to Isaiah 52 and 1. And then we'll jump back here. Matter of fact, before we go there, let me go to Isaiah 51. Matter of fact, no, let me do it this way because if I do it the other way, it won't be able to go back. Isaiah 51 and 20. Thy sons have fainted. They lie at the head of all the streets. As a wild bull in a net, they are full of the fury of the Lord, the rebuke of thy power. And that's why they like that. Why? Because the Lord, put them curses on them because of disobedience. But now we're going to be taken from, a matter of fact, when you read on down, it says, therefore hear now this, thou afflicted and drunken, but not with wine. Thus saith the Lord, thy Lord, the Yahweh, and thy power that pleadeth the cause of his people. Behold, I have taken out of thine hand the cup of trembling, even the dregs of the cup of my fury. Thou shalt no more drink it again. See? So we're not going to drink. That goes into something else. I don't even want to speak on that right now. We got these guys talking about that once Esau gets, once we get into the kingdom, Esau going to come back and sneak us and take us out. Clowns. It says, but I will put it into the hand of them that afflict thee. Who's that? Esau and the other nations. You're going to catch a bad one now. Which have said to thy soul, bow down, see, that we may go over. And thou hast laid thy body as the ground and as the street to them that went over. So pretty much Jake has become a welcome mat to all these nations. All right. And that's why the Lord said here in the next chapter, Isaiah 52 and 1, awake, awake, put on thy strength. What is our strength? The law, the law, statutes, and commandments, which is this word, but the names of, beginning with the names of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, those are the names that the power rests in, and this book, but not just the book, but the spirit that comes with the book of the true and proper understanding, because you also have the spirit of stumbling that you have a lot of people out there that are into. A lot of Israelites out there are stumbling at this word. All right, it says, put on thy beautiful garments, which is a representation of this truth, O Jerusalem, the holy city. For henceforth there shall no more come unto thee the uncircumcised and the unclean. Shake thyself from the dust, meaning come out of that low state and come out of that confused state. Because at one time we were all in that, murky, dark state. Arise and sit down, right? O Jerusalem, loose thyself from the bands of thy neck, O captive daughter of Zion. So the Lord said to loose ourselves from these bands. All right, so going back to Isaiah 41 and 1, Keep silence before me, O islands, and let the people renew their strength. Why? Because we've been beaten down. It says, let them come near, then let them speak. Let us come near together to judgment, because the Lord is going to vindicate us. Now, when we look up this word here, right, renew, it goes to the Hebrew word chalap. Chalap, right? It says here to pass on or away, pass through, pass by, go through, grow up, change, to go on from. Right here, let's go here. To change, substitute, alter, change for a better, renew, to show newness. All right, like of a tree, right? So to show newness. So renew what? Our strength, because we've been trodden down. This is a nation robbed and spoiled. Matter of fact, let's get there real quick. Isaiah 40. Is that 49 or 42? Nope, it's 42. Isaiah 42. And 22. But this is a people robbed and spoiled. They are all of them snared in holes. That's why you have a lot of Jakes in these, wherever there's a religion to be worshipped, you better believe you have Jakes there worshiping that religion. Now, it's one thing you'll never have want for a Jake. And if you got a new religion and you bring it out and you present it the right way, you better believe you will have an Israelite there worshiping that religion. All right? And they are hid in prison houses that's dealing with these different schools of thought, whether it's religious or political, anything, the American dream, these are all prison houses. The whole religious setup, these different religions, in the Congress and the Senate, wherever Jake is at, they're snared in them holes. It says they are for a prey, see, and none delivereth, for a spoil, and none saith restore. So no one is restoring Jake, but the Lord is. Let's go to the word restore. That's why I spoke about renewing their strength, and we're going to get back to that word. The word there restore is shawab, which means to return. Another word that's used for return or renew is the word convert. Convert with turning. All right. So the word shawab just means to return, to turn back, to be reconciled. So you could understand. Now let's go from there. Let's go back to Isaiah 41. All right, so we don't have, wait a minute. Here we go. Isaiah 41, right? We looked at the word strength. I'm sorry, not strength. We looked at the word renew, this chalap, and the word strength. This strength here is the word chak, which is strength, power, might. Human strength, strength of angels, because the Lord is going to renew us, because we've been beat down. So the Lord is renewing us by this word. We are being renewed day by day. Romans 6. Just bear with me 1 second. Haven't read this in a while. Just bear with me. Here we go. Romans 6. I'll start at 3. Know ye not that so many of us as were baptized into Yahushua's into Yahushua were baptized into his death. Therefore, we are buried with him by baptism into death, that like as Yahushua was raised up from the dead by the glory of the Father, even so we also should walk in newness of life. See? So we've been renewed, we've been refreshed. Because we come from a long line of, Israelites that have been pretty much persecuted in this society. Now you have some that had it worse than others, that you can't take away from that. And it is true. You have those that have gone through it worse, like Judah had it the worst. But nevertheless, all of the tribes went through their hell. But it's just not spoken about as much because the main focus here in America is on Judah. Why? Because that's the Lord doing that, because the Lord said that the tents of Judah will be raised up first. That's why everything centers around Judah. Judah is the focal point. They are the anchor. This is why when the Valley of the Dry Bones, who were the first ones to start waking up? That was Judah. Then you had Ephraim, you had Issachar, you had Gad, but the first ones was Judah. They were the ones that was first set up and started to, set up these different groups like the Black Panthers and the Blackstone Rangers, so on and so forth. In speaking, about the atrocities and the lack of, justice in the system. Then you had the so-called Latin tribes jumping on. You had the Native American Indians, which we're all Indians, and then that just started that forward motion. But who spearheaded that? Judah. So that's why Judah is at the head. All right. So we got that strength of angels. So the Lord is building us back up. So I want to go from there. Let's go to Daniel chapter 7. We're going to start at 19. The point is really down at the 25th verse, but just to, give you a little bit more edification, because this goes into the fourth beast. We're at the end of the fourth beast. You had the fourth beast came up, right? In the book of Daniel 7, it doesn't really explain what happened to the fourth beast, but it did give a hint that there would be something else coming out of that fourth beast, and that would be a little horn, which is America today. All right. So when we read Daniel 7:19, it says, "Then would I would know the truth of the fourth beast, which was diverse from all the others, exceeding dreadful, whose teeth were of iron and his nails of brass, which devoured, brake in pieces, and stamped the residue with his feet." Right, because this is what the Roman Empire did back then. And see, the thing about it is, when the prophets wrote these visions, they really didn't understand what was going on, because what they wrote of things in the future. You got to remember, when they wrote certain things, you had empires that weren't, they were just, insignificant back then, till they got to their empire status. It says, "And of the 10 horns that were in his head," right, and the 10 horns represents the EU today, all right, the European Union, which was made up of 10 nations. The first one was 6 nations, but then they increased. But then you have, when you look up the Western European Union, I believe it's called the Western European Union, if I'm not mistaken, they had 10 members, okay? It says, "And of the other which came up, and before whom 3 fell," right? And that other horn that came up is America. The 3 that fell, when you go into the history, is dealing with the 3 major, or the 3 wars that were fought here in America when they took over the other colonizing so-called European nations, such as the British, the French, and the Spanish. That's why you have certain places in America that have English names. You have certain places in America that have French names, and you have certain places in America that have Spanish names, because these are the 3 predominant so-called European nations that controlled America. And this is who America fought to get them out of here to take control of these different lands. And this is why it's in the hands of them today and not in the hands of the Spanish or in the hands of the French. In the case of the French, it was they bought them off because Napoleon was in so many wars he couldn't tend to the wars here in America. So he sold. That's what it's called, the Louisiana Purchase. He sold the lands that the French owned to be able to build, money for the other wars that he had going on. All right, so it says, and before whom three fell, which we spoke about the three, even of that horn, America, that had eyes and a mouth that spake very great things, Trump. Yeah, the Trump reminds me of this, even though it ain't talking about him, it's just talking about America in general and them pretty much exalting themselves, blaspheming the name of the Most High, Yahweh Shai, so on and so forth. It says, whose look was more stout than his fellows. Yeah, because America looks down upon all of these other so-called European or Edomite nations. All right? And they don't respect him. It says, I beheld, and the same horn made war with the saints. And this is one of the keys here. The horn, America, made war with the saints. Began with Gad, Reuben, Issachar. Well, actually here on the soils of America, because this is what this is talking about. So here on the soils of America, that's who it was. But when you go back to the late 1400s, you had Columbus that came and put hell on the saints down there. You see? It says, and prevailed against them. Why? Because it was time for Esau to come up. And it was our time, to be, in that low condition, low position. It says, unto the Ancient of Days came, and judgment was given to the saints of the Most High. And this is why these friars, these priests, and the clergy of the Roman Catholic Church that came to the Americas, that found out about, the folklores or the legends of Quetzalcoatl and Kukulkan, they tried to erase all of those records, because when they examined that tradition, they examined that that legend, they said they equated it with being Yahweh Shai coming over to this side of the world, and they wanted to erase that, get rid of that, but the Spirit didn't allow it to happen. That's why Yahweh Shai said, "Other sheep I have, which are not of this fold, them also must I go and get." I'm just merely paraphrasing. And the time came that the saints possessed the kingdom, and this is what we're waiting for. We're fast approaching this time, and this is why the Lord is building us up, getting us prepared and getting us mentally ready for what's coming. Because we finna win, like Elder Yashwamba says. And it's true. So that's why we're being renewed, we're being refreshed, we're being restored, we're being returned. All right. It says, thus he said, the fourth beast shall be the fourth kingdom upon earth, which was what? The Roman Empire. When you go to any scholar that's worth their weight in salt, they'll tell you that this is talking about, the Roman Empire. But what they don't understand is that there was a second part to the Roman Empire. It says, which shall be diverse from all kingdoms. That goes into a whole different lesson. And shall devour the whole earth, because the ancient Roman Empire did not devour the whole earth back then. You see? So it devoured the whole earth when it came back as that little horn. Because from the Renaissance period, they started to rule the world. Esau started to rule the world again. But then once they got America gained empire status to where they have control over the planet. This is why you have the US dollar as the world reserve currency. So they have sway over the whole entire planet. And this is the revival of the ancient Roman Empire. It says, and shall tread it down and break it in pieces. And that's what they done. You see how they tread the world down and broke it in pieces. It's horrible. It's terrible. And the 10 horns out of his kingdom are 10 kings, which represents the European Union, that shall arise, and another shall arise after them, which is America, and he shall be diverse from the first, and shall subdue 3 kings. This goes into the same thing we just read. The 3 kings were the 3 kingdoms that had footholds in America, the British, the French, and the Spanish. But now we know that behind the scenes, the Rothschilds, which are spearheaded from city state of London, they control this behind the scenes, but pretty much they broke away from the actual rule of England. This is why you don't have a lot of different legislation here in America. It says, but this is the main point here, Daniel 7:25. And he shall speak great words against the Most High. That's dealing with that's that horn, and shall wear out the saints of the Most High. So this is why we have to be renewed and refreshed. So this whole big beautiful bill and the temporary status of these so-called immigrants that are here, Haitians, Cubans, or whatever the case may be, this is all leading to Jacob's trouble. That's why I did a lesson it's called Jacob's Trouble for a reason. And it's called Jacob's Trouble for a reason because, it's all of the tribes, not just Issachar, not just, Asher, not just Naphtali, not just the so-called Latin tribes, the Cubans, and so on and so forth. It also includes you Haitians, so-called Haitians, which are the tribe of Levi, so-called West Indians, which are the tribe of Benjamin, and you so-called American Negroes. You are the tribe of Judah. And this is why they're going to be coming for you. You see? This is the time of Jacob's trouble. And think to change times and laws, and they shall be given into his hand until the time and the dividing of time. And we're at the point of that time being up. In other words, the Lord is going to deliver us. And this is why all of this information is coming out. This is why all of, these things are happening, because we're witnessing the signs that are going to bring forth, the total annihilation of this place. All right, so let's go from there. Let's go to Revelation, which we read that already. So let's go Revelation 17. It's just going to give you a couple, Revelation 17 and 6. Just going to give you a couple more examples on, the wearing out the saints of the Most High. But you know what? I'm sorry. Like I said, my mind is going a million miles an hour, so just bear with me. I want to get the word wear out. Wear out. The word there is bala'ah, quadayash or quadash, which are saints. Bala'ah, to wear away, wear out, to harass constantly. See, and we're being harassed constantly, to afflict, to trouble. And who's more troubled than Judah and the other tribes? Because, you got to, if you have a working brain in your head, you got to think, wait a minute, you have all of these different immigrants from different parts of the world. Why is it that the main focus is on the so-called Latin tribes? Why? You have all different type of nationals here from everywhere, all over the planet. And a lot of them are here illegally. But they're not focused. They're not sending ICE raiding, Persian communities, or so-called East Indian communities, which is pretty much the same people. They're not raiding so-called Chinese communities or so-called Japanese communities. They're not going and raiding so-called Arab communities. They're raiding so-called Latino communities. Now they're raiding so-called black communities that have Haitians, and they're going to move into so-called Jamaicans and West Indians, and eventually all of the tribes, because it's called Jacob's trouble for a reason. So let's go from there. Let's go to Revelation 17 and 6. These are, like I said, just more scriptures that cement the point of the saints catching hell under this devil. Revelation 17 and 6. When you read Revelation 17, the harlot is speaking about America. And I saw the woman, which is the harlot, drunken with the what? Blood of the saints and with the blood of the martyrs of Yahushua. And when I saw her, I wondered with great admiration. So here in this place is the place where we got beat down the worst, you know? So where you pretty much see where Jake is at, they're pretty much at the point that they just want to be left alone. They really ain't got a lot of fight in them anymore. They become like that old lion. But the Lord is stirring things up. You know, he's stirring it up. All right, so let's go from there to Revelation 13 now. Just to give you some more spaghetti for your plate. Revelation 13 and 7. And it was given unto him, meaning this the beast, which is today is America, which back then you had the beast, which was the Roman Empire, but then it came back as America. And it was given unto him to make war with the saints. See, who are the saints? The Israelites, and to overcome them. And power was given him over all kindreds and tongues and nations. And this it's going to get really bad out here, especially when they cement and lock in this digital system. They're like right there. They're just pretty much playing around. But the Lord is the one that's allowing them to move forward. So until Yahweh Bashemel Shai ready, it's not going to go. And we pray that it hurry up and pop off. Because then you're going to really feel it. You're feeling the effects of the crunch, but then you're going to really feel the real crunch. When this devil fully lets his horns out and you realize once and for all that he's the devil and you've been fooled the whole time. All right, let's go from there. Isaiah 47. Let's go to Isaiah 47. And you can see Isaiah 47 and 6. You can see the pictures of this in movies, like Django and the series Roots and Mandingo, Drum. I mean, all of these other so-called Uncle Tom's Cabin, all these different slave movies, you see this right here play out over and over again. Isaiah 47 and 6. I was wroth with my people. I have polluted mine inheritance and given them into thine hand. So when the Lord allowed you to put your filthy paws on us, right, he polluted us. The Lord allowed you to pollute his sanctuary, his children, his people, and given them into thine hand. Thou didst show them no mercy. Upon the ancient hast thou verily heavily laid thy yoke. So now that you've done that, the Lord is rejuvenating us, reviving us, giving us that hope again. Because the scriptures speak about hope deferred maketh the heart sick. So you pretty much, when you have no hope, you have no goal, no drive, no desire to pursue whatever it is you're going to pursue, because you figured ain't nothing I could do I ain't going to win. But the Lord has given us that sense of hope, again. And that's why, brothers and few sisters worldwide are waking up to this truth. It says, okay, that's the main point. Let's go from there. Like I said, I'm just hitting some of the main scriptures to show you that, Jake, that we're in a low condition, low state. We're suffering under these devils. This is Deuteronomy 28 and 48. All right, Deuteronomy 28, 48. Therefore shalt thou serve thine enemy, which the Lord thy power shall send against thee. Esau is a enemy, and the Lord sent them against us. The nations, in hunger and in thirst and in nakedness and in want of all things. So whatever we have want for, need for, we have to go to this devil. So even if you have a business, even if you work for yourself, you still got to come to this man for something, because the curses don't miss. It says, and he shall put a yoke of iron upon thy neck until he have destroyed thee. And you see that when you type in yoke of iron on Google, you go to different books about slavery, you're going to see that the so-called Negroes had those yoke of iron around their necks. Now, here's one of the main points. The Lord shall bring a nation against thee from far. This is going into the Romans. And today you apply this to America too. From the end of the earth, as swift as the eagle flieth, because the symbol of America and of the so-called white man, the Edomites, is the eagle. A nation whose tongue thou shalt not understand, a nation of fierce countenance, which shall not regard the person of the old, nor show favor to the young. So they don't care if you're an old person or a young person, male or female, baby, don't matter. It was atrocious what these devils have done. And now they got a nerve to squirm and squeal and talk crap because now they got to pay. We had to drink of it. You got to drink of it. All right, let's go from there to the 64th verse, because it's more spaghetti for your plate. And the Lord shall scatter thee among all people, from the one end of the earth even unto the other. And that's why you had Israelites that are throughout the four corners of the earth. And this is why this message is to the four corners of the earth, to gather the elect from among these Israelites. And there thou shalt serve other gods, which neither thou nor thy fathers have known, even wood and stone. This goes into your churches today. And among these nations shalt thou find no ease. See? So we've been downtrodden. So we have to be renewed. Hence, when we go back to Isaiah 41, right? It says, keep silence before me, O islands, and let the people renew their strength. When you go to this word strength here, it speaks about the strength of angels. Right here. Chak. Right? Right here. Strength of angels. Because that's one of the very things that the Lord is going to do. He's going to give us power. He's going to renew us. Let's go to, what is that? Is that Zechariah 9? Nope. It's 12. Zechariah 12. Right. Zechariah 12 and 7. Yahweh Bashem Yahushai also shall save the tents of Judah first, because they are the head tribe. You know? And that's not going to change. So if any of your other tribes got a problem with that, then guess what? You just got a problem. That the glory of the house of David and the glory of the inhabitants of Jerusalem do not magnify themselves against Judah. Why? Because they are the head tribe. In that day shall the Lord defend the inhabitants of Jerusalem, which are the Israelites. And it's not talking about them gutter rats over there. It's talking about the Israelites here in America. And he that is feeble among them at that day shall be as David. And David was known as a mighty man. You know, he was known to leap over walls. Him and his mighty men had spiritual powers. You know, you have to have power to be able to fight, you know, hundreds of men and just be able to go through them like nothing. You know, one of King David's mighty men, I'm not sure if it was Benaiah, said he, you know, he cleaved his hand cleaved onto his sword. He fought. The hand was on that sword so long it's almost like his hand was the sword was a part of his hand. You know, that's how long he was fighting with that sword. And the house of David shall be as God and as the angel of the Lord before them. You know, so the Lord is going to renew us, refresh us. And it shall come to pass in that day that I will seek to destroy all the nations that come against Jerusalem. Why? Because of the evil deeds that they've done. Let's go to, I'm going to start, you know what, let me go here real quick to, let's go to Revelation real quick. Revelation 16. I just got a couple more scriptures. Revelation 16 and 6. It says, for they have shed the blood of saints and prophets, and thou hast given them blood to drink, for they are worthy. Right. So this is when the Lord brings judgment upon America, Babylon the Great. Okay. And matter of fact, I gotta come back to that. Let me go real quick to Obadiah 1 and 10, and then we're gonna jump around a little bit. Obadiah 1 and 10. For thy violence, this is directed at Esau. Okay. Right here, Obadiah 1 and 1. The vision of Obadiah, that saith the Lord power concerning Edom. Jump down to the third verse. For thy violence against thy brother Jacob, shame shall cover thee. And that's why you see your whole empire falling apart. Because it's time for you to pay. And thou shalt be cut off forever, because that is your ultimate, destiny. Now, when we jump down to the 15th verse, for the day of the Lord is near upon all the heathen. And this is where we come into the day of the Lord. As thou hast done, so look at the track record of Esau and the nations as to what they did to us. It shall be done unto thee. Thy reward shall return upon thine own head. So when you have these stupid Christians out here talking about that, we're not going to exact vengeance on the nation, just tell them to move on down the street. All right? Because the Lord, we are the Lord's people. We are the apple of the Most High's eye. These devils put their hands on us. And now it's time for them to pay. And the Lord said he's going to use the Israelites to exact his vengeance upon Esau. Verse 16, for as you have drunk upon my holy mountain, so shall all the heathen drink continually. So how's the Lord going to make them do that? By us. That's why it says, it speaks about in Psalms 149th chapter, to execute vengeance upon the heathen and punishments upon the people. This honor have all his saints. Yea, they shall drink and they shall swallow down, and they shall be as though they had not been. So they're not going to have a choice. They're not going to be able to choose or refuse. They're not going to be able to choose their hell. They're not going to be able to say, no, I don't want to, that's too much. Shut up. All right. Revelation 16 and 6 again. For they have shed the blood of saints and prophets, and thou hast given them blood to drink, for they are worthy. That's right. Now let's go from there to Isaiah 34 real quick, and then the last precept I have here. Isaiah 34 and 6. I'm sorry, and 8. For it is the day of the Lord's vengeance and the year of recompenses for the controversy of Zion. So for what you did to us, the Lord is going to get you back. And then in the process of that, he's restoring us, renewing us, refreshing us, building up our hope and our faith back. Because when you have that hope and that faith, it drives you, But when you lose it, you lose interest and you tend to fade away. So the last scripture I have here is Revelation chapter 18. We're going to jump around a little here too. 20 and 21, first and foremost. Rejoice over her, thou heaven, and ye holy apostles and prophets, for the Most High hath avenged you on her. For the controversy of Zion, the Lord is going to avenge, us on you devils. And a mighty angel took up a stone like a great millstone and cast it into the sea, saying, thus with violence shall that great city Babylon be thrown down, and shall be found no more at all. And that's how this place is going to go out. It was established by violence. It's going to go out by violence. In verse 24, and in her, meaning America, Babylon the Great, was found the blood of prophets and of saints and of all that was slain upon the earth. And you don't think the Lord's going to make you pay for that? All right. So with that, I pray that you brothers and few sisters have been edified. Till the next time I say, Shalom.